It's a question you've heard before, but do you really know where your drinking water comes from? It's not just a tap, or a well, or a big tank. This is source water. The name says it all. It's where your drinking water comes from, and there are two types. Surface water, which collects above ground in lakes, rivers, and streams, and groundwater, water that saturates soil and sand underneath the ground. It's then pumped through treatment facilities and into your home as water for drinking, cooking, and bathing.
Before the pipes that lead to our home, even before the complicated process of treatment and disinfection that makes raw water drinkable, it starts here at the source. Our source water can be from surface water, like our rivers, lakes, and streams, or groundwater, the aquifers that lie beneath the earth. Public water suppliers tap into these sources to provide us with our drinking water. Our source of drinking water, whether it comes from the surface or underground, is affected by what happens on the land around it. And although we don't mean to, our daily activities often end up polluting our most essential resource. Whether it's someone using too much fertilizer on their lawn, runoff manure from a farm, oil from a leaky fuel tank, or a town allowing an industrial site on top of a water supply recharge area, we all contribute to the contamination of our water.
Under natural conditions, rainfall soaks into the ground, filling in spaces of the soil and rock. This groundwater reserve is called an aquifer. Over time, people figured out where these aquifers were, drilled into them, and built wells to pump the water out. Urban development not only pollutes our rivers and oceans, it can also reduce our water supply. Because paved areas flush most of the rainfall off the land, very little is able to soak into the ground to recharge aquifers.
Although much of it lies underground, there are places where the sheer scale of our water system emerges, glinting in the sunlight. These are our great lakes and reservoirs, over 2,000 of them, capable of holding over 700 billion gallons of water. Boreholes suck water from far beneath the ground. Pumps feed from rivers up and down the nation. And they're all connected by an almost dazingly vast network of pipes, some under the ground, some overground. Laid end to end, they would stretch round the world 10 times. On an average day, this system apparently carries enough water to fill 18 million bathtubs.
Water's journey to your tap starts further back than you may expect. Our river travels through forests, foothills, and farmland before finally reaching our treatment plants. Water is brought into the treatment plant by pipes located deep in the river that are specially designed to protect fish. The water enters the treatment process where it is clarified, filtered, and disinfected, making it safe for you and your family to use. Throughout this process, water quality specialists are testing the water quality. After about 7 to 15 hours of treatment, the safe and clean water is stored in reservoirs, where it's ready to travel through thousands of kilometers of underground pipes, so it's there when you turn on your tap, flush your toilet, or take a bath. And the water we treat is used for many things in our communities, not just in your home. It's used to water your garden, to fill your local pools, produce the food you eat, and protect you in case of a fire. Providing clean water is what keeps our communities happy and healthy. And summer, fall, winter, and spring, we're working to ensure you always have clean, safe, and great-tasting water.
In many places around the world, the human population has outgrown local water supplies from lakes, rivers, dams, and wells. So how do communities with dwindling water supplies meet an ever-increasing demand? Many resort to importing water from remote areas and distant communities. Importing water to our neighborhoods from faraway places can be very energy-intensive, especially when the water is pumped over mountains and through thousands of miles of pipeline and canals to its final destination.
More and more of us are consuming this drinking water, which represents only an infinitesimal part of the resource available on Earth. In 20 years, 47% of the world's population will live in areas subject to serious water scarcity. Today, more and more plants are desalinating seawater, providing certain countries with nearly 60% of their drinking water. In 2015, desalinated water will already represent more than 2% of water consumed.
Seawater desalination uses huge amounts of electricity, often even more energy than importing fresh water from elsewhere. That's right, it takes more energy to remove salt from seawater than it does to transport it through hundreds of miles of pipes and canals, over mountains and through valleys to your faucet.
We depend on clean source water every day for survival and play. The bad news is that as much as humans depend on water, we also pollute it.
Agriculture now accounts for over 70% of water use around the world, and many agricultural practices have had tragic consequences. When farmers over-irrigate their fields, some of the water soaks into the soil, while the rest runs off into nearby rivers and streams, along with fertilizer and deadly herbicides and pesticides. These chemicals have helped increase the amount of food we can grow, but in the long run, they're harmful to the soil, native fish and wildlife, and can also soak into the ground to contaminate the groundwater below, making them harmful to us too.
Fertilizers from farms and other industrial runoff soak through the soil into groundwater. Pharmaceuticals and toxins flush down the toilet flow straight into lakes. Even water that might look clean can be laden with deadly bacteria. But hey, if there's a way to clean it, why worry? Many pollutants like industrial chemicals are expensive or impossible to remove by filtration. In smaller, rural communities, a lot of people get their water straight from a well, meaning it's never treated. And it's not just humans that need access to clean source water, so relying on water treatment facilities to clean up our mess isn't enough. What can you do? Here are a few simple actions that help prevent water from getting dirty in the first place. Ditch your drugs properly. Safely dispose of your unused pharmaceuticals by returning them to a drugstore. Keep your yard natural. Fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides used in typical lawn care products can have serious water quality impacts. Use non-toxic cleaning and hygiene products in your home, and dispose of potentially toxic products with care.
Contamination of our source water supplies can cause disease and become very costly to clean, and sometimes that contaminated water might be impossible to clean and the source must be abandoned. Fortunately, we can prevent contamination from happening by putting a source water protection plan into action.
Our governments have the biggest responsibility to protect source water. How? By identifying threats, restricting industrial activities in certain areas, and promoting awareness around source water protection. Keeping source water clean is part of a multi-barrier approach to protecting ourselves in several ways.